be honest with y'all. And I haven't admitted this to a whole bunch of people in my life. But I have suffered with anxiety like you wouldn't believe for my entire adult life. And only till a few years ago did I gain control of it because I realized what it was. That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Trey. I go by Early Riser for those who are new to the channel. My intentions are to click the record button every now and then when I have thoughts that go through my head that I think are worth sharing, and have a discussion as a community. And even though it's just me talking to the camera, I read every comment that's posted. So please, if these episodes strike some conversation in your head and you want to get it out and you want to add to the conversation, please know that every comment will be read. And in future episodes, I'm going to highlight some of those comments and discuss them and answer some questions if you have them. But I love hearing your experiences. Lets us all know that we're all sharing something similar. And today's episode will be about anxiety and how I've struggled with it and how embarrassed I was once I realized what it was and didn't want to admit it to anybody. You gotta understand the life I was living as a special operations operator. At the pinnacle of special operations at the unit I was at, you never want to admit that you have a weakness, especially when it's something like anxiety. A physical weakness, man, you can correct that. It's obvious. If your run time isn't good, you can do things to get better. If your deadlift isn't good, you can work with the strength coaches and get stronger. But what I was suffering with, it wasn't in my awareness. I thought it was who I was. I thought those anxious thoughts that were keeping me awake at night were just how it is to be alive. You're scared to talk about it. You don't want people to You don't want people to think that you're weak. And that's important, especially on special operations teams, where we were going in. We're going into assaults. And you don't want anybody surrounding you to question whether you're going to be doing the right things, if you're in the right headspace. And so you hide everything. We all hid so much just for each other, just to make sure we weren't left off the mission. And we lied to ourselves. And I need to quit speaking about everybody else and just talk about me. I was lying to myself. It's like, I don't think I'm stressed. I don't think I have anxiety. Now that I have life without major anxiety, I can look back and say, wow, I was an anxious beast back then. Not sleeping good. Always worried about tomorrow or the next day, or looking foolish, being perfect. Not standing out as somebody that isn't as competent as everybody else. Wanting to be the guy who's identified as the strong one or the most competent one. Special operations is a tough world to live in. And back when back when I was operating, back when I got to the unit, We didn't really have a robust psychological staff, and even if we did, I wouldn't have used it because, again, you don't use tools that you don't think you need. I wasn't going to tell anybody about how bad I was sleeping or how my mind would race out of control if I felt I was in a situation that might make me look foolish or incompetent. Because in football terms, in football analogy terms, and we're the NFL in that unit. Maybe where I had been prior was college or high school level operations, special operations. But at that unit, you are the NFL. And it's expected when you step on the field that you can do your job to an elite level. And so I worked harder, I slept less, I read more, I worked out more, all trying to overcome this barrier that I had put in my way, which is the fear of failure, the fear of letting people down, the fear of looking foolish, the fear of not being perfect. It took probably reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle when I could start silencing my mind a little bit and I could hear that voice in my head for the first time to realize, holy cow, like what is that chattering going on? And is that really me? Folks, if you don't know it, your mind's going constantly. There's a voice in your head, if not many voices. And it speaks continuously. And you just think it's you. You think it's normal. It's not normal. Well, let me state that another way. It is normal in the human condition, but it is not you. It wasn't there when you were born. It developed with you. When your identity was being built as a young human, you were also constructing the ego. And that ego became the voice in your head. And my ego, it was savage. It held me to this high standard that is just not reachable. I was my biggest critic. You know, when I messed up, I talked to myself like I was just this scum of the earth that didn't rate what I was doing. But when people were messing up around me, I'd had compassion for them. So, you know, I could never find the compassion for myself. And I thought that's the way it was supposed to be. Be hard on yourself. Be that internal drill instructor. So as I learned what anxiety was, and this is about a decade ago, maybe a little bit more, I still don't think I was ready to admit how bad I was suffering with it. I was still working in the compound, still trying to be perfect, still not wanting to look incompetent in front of everybody around me. But I learned that it wasn't normal. And to me, that was the first step. That was the first step on the path forward. I learned that those anxious thoughts that creep up when it's your turn to do anything, or you're thinking about the future, you're worried about not being totally prepared, looking stupid. Yeah, it was overwhelming. Here's a cool little equation that I'll give you that I learned from Dr. Jed Brewer on a podcast years ago. Fear plus uncertainty equals anxiety. So the fear, for me, looking stupid, the uncertainty. For me, that was looking ahead and not being able to predict what's coming up next, how I'm going to perform. Those two things combined would be the pit of anxiety for me. What did that do? What did that do to me physically and mentally? Well, I'll start with mental. Mentally, you become this mess. And you usually don't even realize it. Your thoughts are chaotic. When it's time to perform, your stress levels elevate so much inside your body that it's almost overbearing. It's almost to where you can't perform, to where you almost lock up. It's like when you're a kid and you're having those dreams and you kind of, where it's a scary dream and you wake up too fast and you're still paralyzed and you try to talk but you can't. For some of my anxiety, I was at a level just below that to where I could still perform, but I wasn't at my best. My mental processes were often so cloudy. They were disrupting the performance. And like I said earlier, so I just kept trying to get better and better. I kept getting more reps at certain things, so they became just this secondary habit. And that helped overcome the anxiety. I tried to create a whole world around me to where I never failed. Holy cow, you can't grow like that. It just sounds so silly looking back at it. Other ways that affected me mentally, I didn't sleep good. I would wake up early. I would wake up in the middle of the night and have a thought and then latch onto that thought and it would run out of control. Our cortisol levels are at their peaks often when we're asleep. And when you wake up out of sleep and that cortisol's raging and then you have a thought that induces some stress, it turns into a freaking mental mess as you're laying there trying to go back to sleep. That still happens to me sometimes. And I still have to deal with it. But I have some breathing techniques and I have some other ways to deal with that now. Back then, I didn't understand what was happening. I just let the thoughts carry me away, stress about it, not sleep. And then you look at the physical, what's that doing to your physical body? Holy cow, it wrecks it. It keeps you in this state of low intensity stress all the time. Stress is good. Stress helps you get through acute times where you need that response to help you overcome whatever's in your environment that you got to take care of. Whether that's danger, whether that's an event that you need to get up and perform for. Stress is good. It primes you for action. But what we don't want as humans is to have that low vibration of stress all the time. And that's what anxiety does to you. It keeps cortisol flowing. It wrecks your body. And I developed ulcerative colitis in 2008. I couldn't figure out why. Blamed it on my diet, blamed it on all these other things. And it's clear what it was. It's my frickin' stress, my anxiety, and the inability to control either one of them. There were some upsides to all this. As I started learning about what it was, it made me better at my job. Because my job as the assessment and selection guy for operators at our unit was creating an environment where we could get them under some stress and make them perform, watch their performance, give them some critical feedback, and then maybe later that day or the next day we're going to increase the stress again and see if they learned the lessons from the day before. And I had dealt with stress and anxiety, even though I didn't know what it was, for so long. I became wicked good at creating environments to where I could bring anxiety out in almost everybody. Now, there are some people who just don't latch onto things the way that some of us do. And I don't say it isn't they don't care. It's just they don't worry about things. Now, those guys, man, they usually make it through selection, at least mentally, and I can't touch them. But for about 95% of the populace, of the operators that come to our selection, I'm very good at creating that low vibration of anxiety all the way through. And we do that through unknown schedules, events where there's the distance is unknown, the time you're going to be doing it is unknown, the standards are unknown. You don't have a watch on. You don't have any other way to measure your performance except for other people around you. And you don't know how good they're doing. So it just creates this environment to where there's never really a foundation to measure yourself off of. And you never understand what the measurement or the goal is anyway. I couldn't have been as good at my job at that unit if I didn't experience all those same things, those same anxiety traits earlier. How did I hear those thoughts for the first time? Well, after I read The Power of Now, I started meditating, and I haven't stopped meditating. Again, I meditate every single morning, and it's in those meditations that I can hear the thoughts, and I can learn to let them go. I had a commenter, I want to comment on this later in another video, but I had a commenter mention that she was trying meditation, but she wasn't good at it. She kept having thoughts, like she couldn't keep her mind still, so she's going to keep trying. Folks, that's why you meditate. If you closed your eyes and tried to meditate and you had no thoughts, you don't need to meditate. You're in a meditation all the time. We meditate to get reps at having thoughts bubble up, latching onto them, and then letting them go. And then when you get more advanced at meditation, you see the thoughts and you never latch on. And that's the key. If you want to learn about your anxiety and how to start hearing your thoughts so you can learn to let go of your thoughts, meditation is a wonderful way to do it. Okay, I've gone on long enough. I don't want to make these too long, so I apologize if this one was too long, but I could talk for hours on this subject, so we'll attack it again. I'll read some of your comments and hopefully can answer some of your questions and realize I missed a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to cover. Just a quick summary. Your anxiety, you have it because you feel you need to control uncertain things in the future. And folks, you're in control of nothing in the future. Some of your minds right now are saying, yeah, but if I think about it and I plan for it, then I will control it. That's anxiety. That's the problem. We think we're controlling things, but hear me clearly. You're in control of nothing in the future. If you haven't read my Substack or you don't even know what Substack is, there's a link down in the description. Follow that link and read the article that I put in there on escaping to reality. And it will explain the billiard ball analogy, and that'll help you understand of how we are in control of nothing. The only thing you can do is not latch on to all these thoughts when they manifest in your head. That's what you do control. The thoughts are going to happen. You don't have control over that. Your brain is going to create thoughts. It's what it was created for. You, and the control you have, is to let those thoughts go and just be still. It's almost like everybody that's been to a grocery store and there's the shopping buggy that has the little steering wheels on it, so when you stick your kid in there to keep them occupied, and you see as you're pushing the buggy around the grocery store, that child's just going at it on that steering wheel. He thinks he's controlling the experience. That's what you're doing with your anxiety. The thoughts and the pretend control is doing nothing. The universe is in control. So this is what I want you to do. The next time you find yourself nervous or in an anxious state, I just want you to imagine yourself, just close your eyes and imagine yourself in the back seat of a car. And the universe is driving. And it's driving you right where you're supposed to be. And then you just get to look out the window and enjoy the scenery. Just be. Just trust. Just relax and let go of the need for control. And your anxiety levels will start coming down farther and farther. Until you find some stillness. All right, y'all. Love every one of you. I hope y'all have a wonderful holiday. Again, if you're new to the channel and you like what you hear, think about hitting the subscribe button. We'd love to have you in the community. It costs you nothing. It just helps the channel out. And please leave a comment. Please let me know what you're thinking. Please give us your experiences, because again, it just lets the community know that we're kind of all experiencing some similar things. All right, y'all. Thanks for sitting through this. I hope it added some value. And I hope you find some stillness.